Good afternoon, friends. I want you to be honest. This time, it won't be an interview, but rather a conversation between priest friends. I have the honor, the pleasure, and the pleasure of introducing you to a great childhood friend, Father Tomas Augustine Baroches. Tomas, how are you? Very well, Javier. Thank you for receiving me here in California. It's a pleasure to be here. The truth is, we haven't prepared anything at all. Let's put it that way. We're having coffee, that's right, comma. But we're going to have a conversation between friends, so we decided not to prepare anything at all. Let's see. Father Tomas and I have known each other practically since we were kids. Father Tomas's parents and my parents have known each other since the 70s or so. Well, we're both Argentinian, both priests, and over time, I'm like 6 or 7 years older than him.
6 years older.
About 6 years. And then we met when we entered religious life at the seminary. We did practically all the seminars together, right? Yes, practically. I remember that I entered and a month later you entered. Something like that, right? It was later that you went to Rome for a while. Then I went to Rome almost at the end of the seminary. But we were together practically every year, right? That was divine providence. That's right. And now we met again after quite a while. It's been like 10 years since we last saw each other here in the United States. That's right, yes, finally, I think the last time was in 2000 or 2016, right? We met in 2016 in Rome, I think. I had gone on a trip with young people, I think. Every now and then I took young college students to finish their years of study, and we met there. I think it was at the Chino airport in Rome. Yes, we had coffee there and we talked about many topics. I don't remember if that's how it is. That's how it is. Well, Father Tomas is a parish priest in the Diocese of Sabana. Sabana, Georgia. Which is like in northern Florida, right? It would be more like in northern Florida and in the southern United States. Both Florida and Georgia are in the south, but it is in northern Florida. What is it like to live as a priest in the United States? What differences did you see? Father Tomas was in Greenland. In Greenland, in Iceland, and also in Rome. In the United States, we can say that there are many things to say, but I'm going to focus on two. First of all, it's a non-Catholic country. For those of us who come from a very Catholic country or not very Catholic because Argentina is quite liberal in many aspects, but 80% are baptized Catholics. In the United States, the Catholic religion is the religion with the most followers. That's true, because there are 70 million Catholics, but we say that there are 300 million inhabitants. So, among all the Protestant religions, the Protestants are the most numerous. So, first of all, it is a non-Catholic mentality, it is a Protestant country. But what I find very interesting is that, here, among Catholics, there is a lot of progressivism, a lot of modernism, a lot of liberalism among Catholics too, but I have found Catholics who are truly pro-life, who are pro-ill, who truly suffer a lot of persecution for being against gender ideology, for example, and many Catholics who truly go to Mass every Sunday, even during the week, who confess often. In other words, what I can say is, there are many very good people. Like the United States, like all empires, it has all the bad things, but it also has all the good things on that side. And what I would add is that the area where I am is a predominantly Protestant area. Let's think that Georgia has 10 million inhabitants and only 1.5 million are Catholics. The rest is called the Bible Belt, which is the area, let's say, the Bible Belt. Because there are Baptists, Methodists, and Presbyterians. So, well, one has to try to convert them and one has to develop strategies for that, right? How awful, he said, one has to try to convert them. How is that? How come it wasn't wrong to proselytize because how is that? Explain to me why this guy is going to go crazy, if not later. Well, for those who are criticizing us on the other side for proselytism, let's see, the Roman Empire, let's start there, shall we? Why did they persecute them? They persecuted them, not for believing in Jesus Christ. If anyone thinks that, that's a lie. You could believe in Jesus Christ, but what was the problem? The problem is that Christians did not kneel before idols. Christians said, all your religions are false. Your gods are demons and only the Holy Trinity is the one true God, and that's why they threw them to the lions. Quote. So, true ecumenism is not that everything is fine with all religions, that if you're Methodist, stay Methodist, if you're Lutheran, stay Lutheran. No, true ecumenism is seeking that all denominations join the true church, which is the Catholic Church. Now, obviously supernatural prudence, right? Carnal, we cannot begin the dialogue with a Protestant saying, your religion is false, in reality you are going to damn yourself if you don't become Catholic. Not like that. How we begin? Well, let's see. The church founded by Christ was the Catholic Church. That's how the dialogue begins, and one tries to bring someone closer to the true faith with great sweetness, with great affection. To give you an idea, last year, 2 Protestants asked to join the Catholic Church and they were hesitating, right? They told me, and the truth is that we don't know whether to become Catholic or not. And I told them, no, don't hesitate. I'm going to show you with the Holy Fathers that the true church is with the Bible interpreted by the Holy Fathers, that the true church is the Catholic Church. Don't hesitate, because Christ founded the church and you have to stay in that church. The truth is that the fact says proselytism is not always bad, because sometimes people say, no, okay, we have to let each person continue in their own religion, let each person do their own thing. But in reality, it would be going against what the gospel says, because the gospel says Matthew, Mark chapter 16 verse 18, and preach the gospel throughout the world. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And why do some people think that prospectivism is bad? Because some people say that, well, they're not trying to impose a faith on people who don't yet believe in Jesus Christ, but faith is never imposed, faith is proposed, right? And those who want to believe, and those who don't want to believe anything, are misusing their freedom and don't believe in God, in the true God. What we have to say is what the Second Vatican Council says, particularly in the De Verbum. All religions have the semina verbi, but they still have part of the truth, but not the whole thing. And what makes them false is the false part. In other words, the gods of the pagans are demons. That's what the scripture says. And I remember something very interesting. I had an exorcism course a little while ago. I've had 3 already, right? But the exorcist in my diocese said that you can't be a Mason and a Catholic at the same time. Damn it for the news. But he said something that I at least hadn't heard. I thought. I knew that Freemasonry worships the devil and all that. But he said something, but look, very interesting and very clear. Since he is Catholic, you cannot receive communion or confession. You have to stop being a Freemason to be able to do that. But he said that in all the degrees of Freemasonry, absolutely in all of them, you take a religion and worship the god of that religion. What is the problem? That precisely the gods of the pagans are demons. So, one worships all the demons and at the 33rd degree ends up worshipping Satan. And then the exorcist of the diocese told us, well, here we have to remember one thing. Only the Catholic religion is the true one. The others are false. We can have a lot of affection for non-Catholics. We must not think that we are superior. We can even be more sinful. But the best act of charity that we can do is to seek that everyone converts to the Catholic religion. Then, well, obviously respecting each person's time, respecting their consciences. I don't know, when I meet Lutheran friends of mine, they are better people than I am. And I tell them, I once told them, you deserve to be Catholics because you are better people than I am. I am a bigger sinner than you. Because being Catholic does not make us superior to others. We have to be clear about that. For example, Benedict XVI had a spectacular phrase, which he said, we do not have the truth. The truth has us. In other words, we are in the true church not by our own merit, but simply by the pure grace of God. And the act of charity that we can do is to attract non-Catholics to the truth. So, many say that, how should I say it? That apologetics is something bad. Lately I have heard many people say, even several bishops or in several seminaries, that we should not study, we should not do apologetics, right? Because supposedly it is something that does no good, that divides, that seeks controversy, that seeks to make one fight with brothers or with non-brothers. They can also be perfectly simple human beings. And, what is apologetics and why do you think it is necessary to study it, right? Either it makes sense or it doesn't. Apologetics, first of all, must be said to be the defense of the Catholic faith, of the Catholic Christian faith, which can be from the Bible, from tradition, from the magisterium of the Church or from all three. But ultimately, apologetics is, for example, when one dialogues with a Lutheran or with an Anglican or with a Jew, because there is also apologetics, which would be like intra-religious dialogue. And one sometimes tries to start from common points in order to lead them to the Catholic truth. That is what Socrates did. Socrates said, in order to talk, we have to start from common ground, because if not, there's no conversation, right? That's a bit like that. So, apologetics is the defense of the faith with arguments, obviously using all the instruments we have at hand, not just the Bible, the translation, the magisterium. We can use philosophy, we can also use theology, physics, mathematics, if that helps, right? But it's all the elements we have at hand for the defense of the faith. What is wrong, and I can agree with some who say this is wrong, is not wrong with those who do not really seek the truth. What they seek is to monetize on YouTube. How is that? Can you explain to me a bit about that issue? Sure, there are some pseudo-apologists, to the sectarians who are there watching us, right? What I'm going to tell them is if they keep doing what they're doing, we're going to be here as long as possible to keep bothering them, right? But what I'm going with this, they're not looking for the truth, they're looking for morbidity. What they say is, well, let's see, people like morbidity, so YouTube pays you. YouTube pays you for I don't know how many views. Mind you, it can also be for Protestants and Catholics, or not just for Protestants. Exactly, and I was going to say that too, right? Well, it's like we as Catholics can also avoid seeking the truth. We, both Father Javier and I, are on YouTube and we can be tempted to say, well, let's see how many views I can get here if I organize this debate, if I organize that other one. The point is that the question we all have to ask ourselves is, am I seeking the truth? Am I looking to convert that person or am I simply looking to monetize? And at least in my personal experience, I organize conversations with non-Catholics. I do it every Sunday at 9:30 at night. Here I send the link. Whoever wants to connect, Jewish, Catholic, atheist, I am willing to talk. Now someone comes in and insults me and I tell him, God bless you, but get out. For what reason? I'm not going to get into the morbid stuff. I mean, you can disagree with me and you can discuss the truths of faith with me. We can confront each other, but always with respect. Now, what some people do is directly monetize and start fights. They insult each other, they say all this and that, and then it turns out that they have 100,000 views and of course, YouTube pays you for each view. Those people are businessmen. In reality, what I tell Catholic apologists is not to get caught up in that because we make apologetics look bad, that is, we make the Catholic Church itself look bad. We shouldn't give those sectarian apologists who are dedicated to making a business out of it. And what's more, Catholics shouldn't go to their channels to see what they said about the Pope, to see what they said. Know that they are all things against the Pope, against Rome, against the priests. Why do we get involved? No? So, what is true apologetics? True apologetics is the defense of our faith from the elements we have, but seeking the truth and seeking that all Catholics and non-Catholics can meet in a healthy debate, and Catholics have to seek that others join the true church. If I want the non-Catholic person to join the true church, I have to show them respect and charity. If I insult them or if I really treat them badly. And well, I'm not setting a good example, like my bishop had a phrase that is very good that tells the truth. Hey, charity without truth is sentimentalism, but truth without charity is brutality. In other words, we have to tell the boy who is not Catholic, look, our church is the true one, yours is false. We have to watch how we tell them in the conversation, but we have to tell them, but we respect you, we love you very much, we are not going to, let's say, pressure you to become a Catholic. Maybe your conscience tells you something else. Thing. We simply want to dialogue and we want to show you that we love you and that we seek the eternal salvation of your soul. And apologetics is based on that. But as a conclusion to your question, right? The true apologist is not someone who only argues and destroys their rival, right? The true apologist is someone who truly seeks the eternal salvation of their rival, seeks the conversion of the person in front of them to take them to heaven. One of the things that most caught their attention in a debate that I had a few months ago, right? But what most caught the attention of many people, right? Thanks to this sinner, because I am a great sinner, but, for example, that in the end we both ended up apologizing to each other. And I remember that a non-Catholic, a Baptist pastor, told me, that was the best part of the debate. Beyond the arguments, the best part of the debate was that the two showed each other respect and apologized. Well, then the bishop's phrase applies there, right? True. Charity without truth is sentimentality, but truth without charity is brutality. We shouldn't try to make everyone become Catholic, but we should try to save their souls above all else.
Let me guess. You're thinking about going to therapy. And as a therapist myself, of course I'm going to say that's a great idea. But first, let's talk about the things they don't tell you. First of all, you're going to say, I'm fine, like 300 times. Spoiler alert, your therapist will see right through that. And how does that make you feel? Yes, they actually use this phrase.
Father Tomas recently started making some videos on social media, well, on YouTube, on his YouTube channel, then also on Twitter, but before that he had started on Facebook. What led you to expand on this more? Because the truth is that until last year, the year before last, you had more of a focus on the parish. Why have you now expanded on this area? Well, above all because I was at a very undecided moment whether to continue with social media, right? I was super undecided and there was a moment when I said I'm wasting my time. This for me is because we can waste a lot of time with social media, right? And I said in good conscience, I said, well, here, the most important thing is my priesthood, the most important thing is to save souls, my parish, so I'm leaving social media. And I remember that as soon as I said that, I prayed to Jesus Christ and the Virgin Mary and I said, well, if it's your will that social media continues, I need you to show it to me. At the moment I don't see it. And the day before I was going to close all the accounts, a woman wrote to me and said, Father, I thank you. I was about to have an abortion and I didn't because of your post. I was going to see the doctor to have an abortion, to have the operation, and I didn't have an abortion thanks to your pro-life post. I'm going to name my son Thomas. She told me something like that, right? Father Thomas didn't make videos before. He just made posts on Facebook for a long time. Exactly. Yes, thanks to the pro-life post. That post, I read it later, was a very tough post, right? That I tried to call those who killed babies in the womb and other things hitmen and murderers. This woman came up to me and thanked me. She told me, that's what I needed to hear at that moment. So I said, well, if social media is used to save souls and to save babies and for the pro-life cause and is used for the glory of God and the salvation of souls, then this shows that it can be done well. And so, of course, that's when I continued with Facebook. But then a friend of mine who is married to an American, we're all Americans, right? This woman told me, Father, YouTube is the best, she said, because Facebook is fine, they watch it all you want, but there on YouTube you can record videos, she told me, and you can say what you think and you can bring a lot of people together because you can reach the whole world. So I was kind of skeptical, but I started with some YouTube videos and it turns out I made a video that reached 10,000 people, which was this video where I criticized the blasphemy of the Olympics. So I said, of course, here God is showing me that I don't just have to preach in my parish, but that there's a virtual parish where one can watch a Christian message and an apologetic message in defense of the faith from home. So there I started to get more involved with YouTube and then I started a Twitter account, which is X, but I did it because I thought Facebook was going to censor me. So, just in case they censored me on Facebook, I created an X account. But look, it was incredible because I started with CC or 10 people, and for example now on YouTube I have more than 200,000 followers. I didn't look for it, but you think, well, things are getting crowded, right? And in X, I've had it for a year now. I started with 10 and now I have almost 25,000 too, something like that, right? So I said, it's not the number doesn't matter if I'm talking to 10 or if I'm talking to 20, because sometimes, many times YouTubers worry a lot about numbers, right? No, let's say our YouTube channel is small. We'll talk to 100, we'll talk to 10, whatever. But what I saw was that God was showing me, look, you didn't want to be on social media, but you're reaching a lot of people, right? So God was also telling me, don't believe it. Don't think that you're really going to save people because of your merit. Don't believe it. You're a great sinner. You're the worst there is. But just as God could use fallible instruments like the apostles, who are uneducated men, this and that, well, he can also use me, right? And so, to summarize everything I said, every time I tried to leave social media, God showed me that I had to stay, either because of the message of this woman, who precisely showed me that this evil instrument saved her son. In other words, God, through this evil instrument. And I have also realized that YouTube videos, Facebook posts were reaching thousands of people, right? So I say, this must be used not for vanity, not for self-glory, but for the greater glory of God and for the salvation of souls. So that's where I discovered my vocation on the sixth continent. Finally, it seems to me that I should do like Saint Ignatius, everything that is for the glory of God. If this helps me save my soul and the souls of others, perfect. Now, where I see that I'm wasting my time and where I see that social media is actually harming me, well, I'll leave it there, because the most important thing is the salvation of my soul. Sometimes people wonder how one spends all day here and neglects prayer or priestly life or, I don't know, one's obligations as a priest, right? Well, in my case, I changed my schedule because here in the United States, you have to get used to having dinner earlier. In Argentina, you used to have dinner much later. Well, anyway, I wake up at 4:30, 5 in the morning every day because if I don't, I know I won't pray, but also, watch out, I go to bed earlier, by 9:30 I'm already falling asleep because otherwise I can't stand it. And then there are all the normal activities of a priest. Today we had Mass, Father Tomas generously took it here at the parish, we have 3 Masses a day. I attended a 7 a.m. Mass, then San Francisco went back here. They didn't put me in jail, so for now, and then I attended the afternoon Mass. We confess before Mass, after Mass, it depends on each person. We have to attend a wake. I have a wake tomorrow for the sick. Well, that's what priestly life is like. I mean, it's not like you're stuck in your bed and sometimes, it's like it would be much more comfortable for us to not stay in a book and, what do I know? Father Tomas, on a Sunday. I'll tell you the truth. When the priest arrives on Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon, he's tired. Tomas has 4 Masses per Sunday. Yes, 3 Masses and 4 Masses on the first Sunday of each month. I mean, it's a lot, and he would love to put on his slippers in the afternoon, watch a series or read a book or listen to music or whatever. But on a Sunday night, late or Sunday evening, he starts listening to a Buddhist or a Jew, a Muslim, a Protestant who wants to give their opinion on why Catholics are idolaters. Why not? Because supposedly we worship the Virgin Mary. This topic is also a sacrifice, right? Because sometimes you don't feel like saying, okay, that's enough, that's it, I'm going to put on a book quietly and I'm arguing with some alien that I don't know and you don't feel like throwing in the towel. And yes, many times, because sometimes it happens that this is what I was telling a parishioner of mine from another parish who came and started talking to me, telling me that he wanted to change parishes because he was angry with me and it was a misunderstanding, right? And in the end, after an hour of talking, he said, no, Father, excuse me. The truth is that I misjudged you, this and that, look. I tell him, you lay people have it easy. Do you know why? You change parishes and everything is fine, right? On the other hand, you think that I always put up with my faithful and I can't change parishes. I mean, look, my parishioners, those who are listening to me, I love you all very much, and 99% of them are good people. But sometimes one may come along and give us, as they say here in the United States, hiji hard, that is, I had a really hard time, a tough moment, right? There are some who come and it's as if they don't realize that the parish doesn't revolve around them. That one really has to do other things, but one also has to take care of them out of charity, for this, for that. So I told him, I can't change my parishioners. You change parishes and that's it. On the other hand, I have to put up with everyone who comes, even the good ones and the bad ones. And look, we're not complaining, it's our vocation, right? We've been called to save souls, not only the souls of the good, but also the bad ones. And sometimes we're not so good either, right? Well, regarding this Sunday thing, there are times when 9:30 comes around, 9:30 at night comes around and I'm tempted to say, well, we're canceling the live broadcast, I don't want to know anything about it. I had 4 masses, I had confessions, I had baptisms, I had this, I want to rest. Quote, but every time I'm thinking about that, I always remember the words of Jesus Christ, right? Who says, the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. So, I say, could it be that the devil is the one who's putting this in my ear? Because today someone is going to come in who really needs some advice from me. And every time I have that temptation to not go to the live broadcast, those are the best live broadcasts because the people who come in are the ones who really need help and really need some advice from me and the Holy Spirit. Because if it were up to me, I would do anything crazy, but the Holy Spirit inspires me to give them good advice. And many people told me, Father, I needed to be here with you today. Thank you very much. I leave feeling comforted. But yes, humanly speaking, sometimes it's tiring, and sometimes one says, enough of this, I want to throw in the towel, I want to throw the camera out the window, I want to burn everything and I want to dedicate myself to putting on my slippers, reading a good book, or, I don't know, calling my mother, or doing something else. But these words of the Lord always stop me, and at the same time I remember the words of Don Bosco, right? A seminarian asked Don Bosco for a vacation. When do we take a vacation? And Don Bosco said to him, taking him by the shoulder, he said, in heaven we will rest. So I always remember those words of Don Bosco, in heaven you will rest after a time in purgatory. He said, no, now is the time to do apostolate and dedicate yourself to the glory of God and the salvation of souls. But watch out, Javier, you'll agree with this. For example, on Mondays I try to rest well, right? I also have a day where I rest well because I think that the problem for priests who seek to do apostolate is the issue of sleep and one can end up going crazy, right? If one doesn't rest, one can end up very badly. So, what I tell people, if you see a good priest or a good parish priest that you may have who needs to rest a little, let him rest for this reason, not because he's thinking about himself, but because many times, in order to better serve the faithful, you have to take a break, take a good nap, go out and do some sports, because that way, yes, as a saint whose name I can't remember right now used to say, remember everyone, but don't forget yourself, because if you really want to serve your faithful, you have to have the energy, and for that it's necessary to take a good rest from time to time. That's right.
But as for Sundays, I can't say anything. I mean, it's not for everyone, right? Whoever wants to do it, great. But it's hard, especially for priests who have parishes. It's quite hard, right?
Well, I would recommend that they follow Father Tomas. Hey, can you remind me of the name of the YouTube channel, please? The name of the YouTube channel is Fr Tomas Barich with a verified account. That is, the little gray or white bullet or whatever. And there you can look for me in well, every Sunday at 9:30 at night, Atlanta, Georgia, United States time, I have my live broadcasts. Great, that's all talking with Father Tomas Barich, a great friend of mine, about work, social networks and the apostolate by objective. God bless you very much and if you don't miss the video, apart from subscribing.
Si te gustó el video